morning, good evening to you wherever and whenever you are joining us. Welcome to our latest edition of What Caught My Eye, or WCME Sports. I'm your host, as always, the coach Nick Veschi. I'm joined by the boy Stephen Veschi.
What up?
And the man Stephen Kamlo.
This is a new haircut, by the way. Thank you for noticing.
I did notice, but I thought it'd be weird to compliment another man's haircut.
Just notice.
I noticed. It looks good.
It takes nothing. Thank you.
You
There's
look
a compliment.
You look a lot less hardy than you did before.
I told you it's time for a haircut.
You woke up on the right side of the truck bed this morning.
This morning.
Yes. Ulterior motives. Now, without further ado, our top catch for this week, we turn our eyes to the realm of college football. We said last week, again, the heat of it. It is as much crunch time as you could possibly get. Last week was their second to last game of the regular season, unless you're Army and Navy. This week we close out the regular season, so we figured we got to focus on that. And not only is it the time to focus it on the most, we had some crazy finishes from the college football realm this week. And heck, I might even miss some, right? But I'm going to start us off. This one, I don't know if you saw this. It's the Rutgers-Illinois game.
Yes.
Crazy. If you haven't watched this this has no playoff implications. Illinois is a good team. Rutgers is a decent team trying to get themselves higher in the Big Ten. But, man, what a crazy finish to this, right? So, in the fourth quarter, Rutgers took a 31-30 lead with a little over a minute left. And fourth quarter was nuts, too. Illinois staged their own mini comeback in that quarter to get that 30-24 lead. And so Illinois gets the ball back. They line up for a potential game-winning 58-yard field goal with about 14 seconds left. Guy goes to kick it. It's in the air. The crowd's cheering because he missed it. The attempt is waved off because Rutgers calls a timeout to ice this guy on his 58-yard field goal, right? Well, Illinois head coach Brett Bielema, formerly of Wisconsin lore, he decides, what the hell? I'm going to throw the offense back out there instead of go kick it again. The very next play, his quarterback, Dan Altmaier, gets leveled, somehow flips the ball to wide receiver Pat Bryant, who takes off untouched.
Luke Altmaier, by the way.
Luke? I thought it was Dan.
No, it's Luke.
Luke?
Yep.
Something Altmaier.
You come to my house, you get my wife's name right.
You
Christina.
idiot.
This one has the vodka right here, honey. This one
right here's got the vodka. This one right here.
Good
Arnie
ball.
Palmy alert. All right. Luke Altmaier, excuse me, I just offended all of Champaign, Illinois, with that he connected with wide receiver Pat Bryant on a 40-yard catch and run for the go-ahead touchdown with 4 seconds left to go up, I think, 36-31 because they missed the extra point. And then eventually they force a safety, I think, at the end of the game to win 38-31 in New Jersey. But just crazy game. A couple stats before I ask this question to you guys. Illinois, with that win, they reached 9 wins for the first time since 2007, which is amazing, right?
Yeah.
Rutgers has now lost 40 straight games versus AP-ranked opponents, which is now the longest active streak in the country.
Damn. Scarlet Knights.
Rutgers, which is crazy. The question I want to pose to you, are you in favor of icing kickers with the timeout?
It depends. I think it depends on situation. I don't like icing a kicker on a 58-yarder. I think
Agreed.
that's kind of stupid. I think maybe like 35 to 50.
I think it's got to be a chip shot, to be honest, right? Because
you don't want to give him longer practice.
Yes, the practice swing. Yes, obviously the practice swing was null and void but they threw the offense back out there.
Well,
but
this is why
if they don't call a timeout, they win the game, right?
I don't mind icing the kicker. I hate doing it like the last second one where they continue to play. You got to call it well before the long
I agree with that.
So then the ref comes in and goes, "All right, stop. You can't go kick it."
Don't let him get a kick in.
Correct.
I say call it before he even lines up.
Yeah,
right?
I don't mind it.
The line gets set and the kicker steps back, then call it.
Yeah, once the line gets set, I would call it.
Because you haven't given them the chance to line it up with everyone there either.
Correct.
I'm thinking about all the circumstances. Like, if I'm the home team, yes. If I'm the away team, no. If I don't want him to get the kickoff, what year is the kicker? If it's like a true freshman or like a redshirt freshman, yeah. Like, this could be his big moment. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I feel like there's a lot of circumstances that I, as a coach, would consider.
I think that is very valid. it should not be a blind, oh, I'm just always going to do this decision, which I think it is for so many coaches that it's a go-to. I'm actually fully against it because at this point, all of the kickers know that they're going to get iced. So they go up there and they line it up and they know they're going to get a practice swing. So they don't feel it yet, right? But almost like play that reverse psychology there, right?
Mm-hmm.
He thinks I'm going to take the timeout, so I don't. And I think it messes with them more. I'm with you, boy. I don't want to give him a practice swing. Like, think about it. If you gave a golfer, right, a second shot, or he swings his first shot and someone called timeout in the stands, oh, I get to drop another one, take it there. Are you kidding me? You know how often they would hold that shot, right? You're giving these guys more to help them, right? And I don't think they're as affected by the timeout as they used to be. It used to be all the big deal. We're going to ice them. Mm-hmm. These guys, it happened to them at every level. They don't care. It's not, oh, they're going to have more time to think about it. No, right? I think it's harder if they go up there blind and that 50-yard field goal attempts their first swing at it. And I think I don't think there's any statistic that says this works either. Have you seen somewhere they say, oh, this works this percent of the time? I feel like I see it backfire more often where they call the timeout, he misses it, and then he kicks it good the second try. So I'm not in favor of it. You're right. It would depend on the situation. You're right. If you're afraid that I might have too many men on the field, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know, certain things like that depends on.
Make sure you're in the right spot to go over with your team again. Like, don't touch them. Yep.
As we've seen too many times, right? If maybe you saw something, I understand it from that point. But if you're purely just icing the kicker,
don't line up over the center, like all that.
So if you're a numbers man. General findings, again, very general.
General findings.
Studies show that kickers generally convert around 70 to 75% of field goal attempts in college football. That number drops when the kicker is iced from 70 to 75 to 65 to 70. So you're thinking like anywhere from like as great as a 10% drop to as low as like no considerable difference at all. So I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Is it worth it? Like you said, there's a decently wide range of that. Is it worth it? I think like the boys and you guys said, it more depends on situation. A 58-yard field goal, I think that's a dumb decision in my opinion to ice a guy in that field goal. The odds of him even making it on the second try, third try, it's not going to happen, right? First try, it's even lower.
Ironically, I think you want to ice him when it's hot out. Because I feel like he's going to be like, man, I'm like over here just sweating my balls off. I do not want to get back over and like kick again or like stretch, you know? But like in the cold, he's like, like keep me moving, you know? Like,
I don't disagree with you. Yeah,
you're not iced in the ice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the dude's just taking practice swings, goes back over to the net and starts taking more practice swings. Like, I agree with you on that.
We get the heat. We get Dome Stadium in the middle of winter. Plump the heat up to a sultry 95 degrees in there. Have a heated turf fields.
Yep.
Sweat them out.
Or get that deflated ball from the Tom on the bench. You know,
blow a fuse that like doesn't let the fans work on the sidelines anymore. Like,
which they, I heard. I was watching the Georgia Tech NC State game, and they said during the broadcast that the NC State or Georgia, I think it was the NC State. Oh no, Georgia Tech coaches, they were at home, didn't want the guys in the booth to have the heaters on.
Like the announcers?
Yes, the announcers. The Georgia Tech coaches said, no, we don't want you to have them on anymore. They had them on, and they sent someone up there to turn them off, said, no, our coaches don't want you to have these on.
That's like
the most college football ridiculous, most football thing. Like, could you imagine?
Did you guys see that? Did you guys see that clip that was going around of Mike McDaniels versus like the Raiders, and he calls a timeout on like it's like 4th and short or something like that, and he calls a timeout, and he like Tua comes over and he's like, I'm just over here making it look like I'm giving you a play. I'm not actually going to give you a play. And then they go back out, and Max Crosby jumps, and Mike McDaniel's like, ha, Max! I didn't even have a play called, Max! Didn't even have a play called! It's just, like, talking all this shit on the sidelines. Like, to me, like, that's got to be, like, the psychological effect you go for with kickers. Like, stand next to the ref and be like...
And then don't call it.
Yeah, just sit there, like, waiting for it. And then the kicker's like...
I think Belichick's done that before.
Yeah.
I've had people say that to me. Like, no, that's what I would do is stand up, pretend I'm going to call a timeout, tell the ref, I'm going to pretend, but I'm not going to call it. And you're okay. And sit there because he's probably looking at you a little bit, right?
And then when the kicker, like, because I feel like in my head, I would want the kicker to be like, holy shit, I'm actually going to get to kick this ball.
Yes. Catch him off guard.
Yeah, that's where rubber meets road right there. That's how you find out who the good kickers are.
Yes.
What are these coaches doing?
Losing football games. Moving on to, again, more craziness from the college landscape this week. Down in the Plains in Auburn, the Tigers had a 21-0 lead over the Texas A&M original Aggies, but they blew that lead. Actually, I think fell behind, and were able to force overtime, though, on Ian Vachone's 29-yard field goal with 5 seconds left in regulation. And that's significant because Auburn's kickers, I think this year had converted like less than 50% of all field goals. They'd run out 3 different dudes. So a 29-yarder is no gimme. So for him to nail that is onions, right? And then first overtime, teams trade touchdowns, right? And second overtime, teams trade field goals. So move on to the third overtime, which is regrettably alternating 2-point conversions, and as opposed to the normal overtime. You start that at 3 OT. So 3 OT, neither team converts. You move to the fourth overtime. Auburn goes first, and quarterback Peyton Thorne connected with Keandre Lambert to put some pressure on A&M. The Aggies ran a decent play, but the guy dropped the ball. Like, it passed a little behind him, dropped the ball, and Auburn pulled the upset 43-41 over Texas A&M on the Plains. War Eagle. Crazy.
War damn Eagle.
Some more SEC upset madness for you. Florida, they beat number 9 Ole Miss 24-17 in the Swamp. Remember, we talked about how hard it is to play in the Swamp. That's got to be, exhibits A and B this week and last week. Gave the Gators their second straight win versus a ranked opponent, like we said. It's the first time they've done that. Florida has since 2018. Florida closed as a 13.5-point underdog for that game, which would make it their second largest upset in the last 45 seasons for Florida Gators. It's pretty amazing. When you think about it, it makes sense. How often is Florida, going into a game as an underdog besides the last few years, right? But that's still a pretty remarkable stat. Kansas, some other remarkable things. I don't know if you saw this stat. They became the first FBS team ever with a losing record to beat 3 straight ranked opponents when they took down number 16 Colorado in the house that Andy Reid built. 37-21. Jayhawks running back Devin Neal had 207 rushing yards on 37 carries. That's my favorite part of that. They gave him the ball 37 times. Had 3 touchdowns. He was also his team's leading receiver with 4 catches for 80 yards and another score. Right?
Yeah, he got the ball. That's exactly what Kansas was supposed to be.
Yes.
Right?
These last 3 weeks.
That was one of the best games I watched, is because I love when you do that. You run the football and you just maul someone. And you just keep going. Like Devin Neal, it's 3rd and 2, Devin Neal. 4th and 1, Devin Neal. It's first and goal on the 2, Devin Neal. And it was like, you're not overthinking it. You just, here's our guy. Our line's pushing you around it. We'll run a couple traps. We'll run a few other variations of it. And we're going downhill. And you're not going to get the ball because your offense is really, really good. Well, if you don't have the ball, you can't score.
Yep.
Right? And you're not going to be as physical as Kansas was. So that was a fun game to watch.
Yes, it was. And Kansas, they are the best team in the country right now with a losing record, by far.
Yeah.
Again, I was looking through at their losses too, right? 6 losses. I think 4 of them are to ranked teams, right? And then I
think 4 of them are also leads they had in the fourth quarter.
Yes. And then the 2 games, like they blew the West Virginia game, shouldn't have lost that. Yep. And I think they lost to
Kansas
TCU
State.
Is a bad loss because TCU stinks. And Kansas State, they blew a lead, right? So you're talking, if a couple things go a different way for them, that's a 9-10 win team.
Oh, yeah, that's a team that's looking at a Big 12 conference championship.
Which would make sense as to where they were ranked preseason-wise. Yes. So if they're able to pull off, win their last game of the year, I'm not sure who they play.
Let me get it.
But if they're able to win that game, become bowl eligible, that is the last team you want to play in a bowl, especially because whatever 6-6 team they play, they are much better than.
They were actually Baylor, by the way, two hottest teams in the Big 12. No. Well, I guess Arizona State as well, but Baylor and Kansas are on fire. I think Baylor's won 5 straight.
Have they really? Because Kansas is hot. You're right.
Baylor beat Houston, hot. West Virginia, TCU, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech.
Beating up on
their last loss was Baylor's last loss was October 5th at Iowa State.
Yeah, I'd say Kansas is more impressive because of the caliber teams they've beaten, but it's hard to win a football game.
It's hard to win in the Big 12. The Big 12 is just a logjam. This is why, like, if you look at the Big 12 standings and like the media poll before, like the preseason poll, like who they expected to win, and then who's actually in first, like in the conference, you literally flipped. Like if you just flipped it, like the South Park, like the pyramid's upside down.
Yeah.
If you just flipped the media poll of who they thought was going to win it, that's who's in first now. Arizona State, I believe, was picked to finish last. They're in first. Yeah. BYU is picked way down there. They're in second. Iowa State was the team they thought could win. Colorado was picked toward the bottom. Baylor was picked at the bottom. And then you have the logjam of K-State, TCU, Texas Tech, and West Virginia. K-State was a favorite. Kansas was one of the favorites. And then the big favorites were Utah and Oklahoma State, and they are down at the bottom with a combined 1 win in the Big 12.
It's crazy. Speaking of, again, hot teams in the Big 12, like you said, Arizona State, right? They hung on to beat BU 28-23 in Tempe. Yes. Running back Cam Scadaboo had 28 carries for 147 yards and 3 touchdowns, while wide receiver Jordan Tyson added 9 catches for 125 yards for the Sun Devils, who have now won 5 in a row in 6 of their last 7. It's hot down there in Arizona. It's getting even hotter. Pretty amazing job. Kenny Dillingham, I believe.
Yes.
Is his name. Correct. Really impressive what they've been able to do. They got a rivalry game this week with Arizona. I think the Territorial Cup is what it's called. But
interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, that's another team that found their identity and said, Cam Scadaboo is getting the ball 30 times a game.
And we're only going to throw it to Jordan Tyson because he's
correct. Because he's really, really good. Mm-hmm. Yes. They've figured out what works for them, and they went on a tear. That was a great game, by the way. BYU, because BYU is tough.
Yeah.
And, God, they came back in that game. I was like, oh, here we go. But, yeah. I think, by the way, do you know there's like 7 different tiebreaker scenarios right now in the Big 12. Somehow West Virginia, by the way, is still alive. Mathematically alive.
What the heck?
Please let it happen, because then the Big 12 will be out of the playoff.
We'll get no team. Yeah, I know it would be hilarious. But there's a very real possibility that 4 teams end up tied 7-2. And I have no idea who goes to the championship if that's the case.
They just do rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
They might.
Always
I think Colorado's
rock goes through paper, and
I think Colorado needs help.
Scissors.
Colorado, I think, needs the other 3 teams or 2 of those teams to lose. But I think if whoever's tied at 7-2 is going, and if all of them lose, and West Virginia wins and Baylor loses, West Virginia goes.
Oh God! Please let it happen.
I hope it happens, but that also means West Virginia has to beat Texas Tech on the road. So
who? Yeah. Have you seen their new stadium, by the way?
Texas Tech.
Amazing. They really did a renovation into the one end zone. Looks like it's an old Southwest building. Like, it is so cool.
That's kind of neat.
If I knew that happened before we did our favorite stadiums, I think that one probably would be up there. I was watching, I was like, I want to go to a game. I give it daggone
West Texas, baby.
About, Texas Tech and the fight in West Welkers, but man, that looked sweet.
Michael Crabtree's.
Pat Mahomes.
Yeah.
We have to say that. I was making a joke with Wes Welker.
I was making a joke with Crabtree.
Is it Zach Thomas, I think, is a Texas Techer?
Zach Thomas with the Texas Tech.
Yeah, you need to fact check me. I believe he did. But fact check me on that one. Moving on to a defunct conference. The Pac-12 championship
Texas
game
Tech.
Was I right, Kamlo?
Yeah, Texas Tech.
The Pac-12 championship game was this past weekend. And if you're wondering what How? It's because the Pac-12 doesn't exist anymore. But the two teams that still are there, Oregon State and Washington State, played, and that was a doozy of a game. So Oregon State, their quarterback, Ben Goldbranson, he connected with Darius Clemens for the tying touchdown with less than 3 minutes to go versus the Cougars. Then on the ensuing Wazoo possession, the Beavers forced and recovered a fumble. Right, so they went from down to tying to now we got the ball back. And that set up Everett Hayes' game-winning 55-yard field goal with 20 seconds left to give Oregon State the 41-38 victory, and the unofficial Pac-12 crown for the year goes to the Beavers in Corvallis. But yeah, that was a crazy game. I wanted to watch it just because it's the only game from that conference this year, right? Georgia Tech's game, I said something about that earlier. That was kind of a crazy game too. Their quarterback, Haynes King, right, as their QB.
Did he get?
He suffered an arm injury. I was like, why is he not out there all the time? He's only out there to run the ball because he can't freaking throw the ball more than like 5-10 yards because of his arm injury. But their backup, who was in there, Aaron Philo, was fantastic. He actually scored the game-tying 18-yard touchdown run with 22 seconds left, and then the Yellow Jackets converted the PAT to go up by 1. But NC State had a shot because, again, there's about 20 seconds left. They lined up for a 58-yard field goal, and man, guy gave it such a great go at it. He had hit a power fade, like a power fade stinger, and it was fading right back at the last second and just didn't make it all the way back, missed the goalpost by like this much. And Georgia Tech held on for a 30-29 victory over the Pac. Georgia Tech, now they face Georgia. I believe Clean Old-Fashioned Hate, I think is the nickname of that rivalry. Of old Southeast Conference foes. Did you know that? Georgia Tech was a founding member of the SEC.
Yes, I did know that. Is Haynes King going to play in that game?
I would assume if he played in this one, he's going to play in that one. It'll probably be the same mix that they had to use with Philo and King.
Where he can't really throw the ball. God,
which is going to...
If he's healthy...
They have a shot.
If he's healthy, they have a great shot.
Yes.
I mean, Georgia is beatable.
Yeah, flawed. Yeah,
they're very flawed. I mean, you don't put up 10 points against Ole Miss and lose by 18 or score 13 against Kentucky. Like that team is flawed.
Two very good defenses, by the way. Boy, just to play devil's advocate.
No, they're very good defenses. But if you're Georgia, you can't score 2 touchdowns in a game.
Yeah,
those are 2 games they didn't score 2 touchdowns.
I'm still trusting the process with Kirby Smart and the coach. I have to trust it, right? Penn State, moving on. Speaking of maybe not trusting some decisions that Penn State makes, they narrowly escaped upset-minded Minnesota.
That was
a tough game to play them in Minneapolis.
Yeah, that was upset alert.
Yes.
Like the
Going
second I saw
that,
that.
yes.
Yeah, I wasn't even paying attention to Penn State's schedule because it just wasn't on my radar. Like I'm just assuming they're just gonna go through. Like they played their tough game with Ohio State. They're just gonna go through and finish the season 11-1. If I realized like they were playing Minnesota, I realized it like halfway through the game, and I was like, "Oh shit! Like this is a tough game. This is not an easy place to win."
Yeah, I mean PJ Fleck is a phenomenal coach,
Yes.
one of my favorites in the country. But he did make a decision that, in retrospect, hurt them because they went for 2, and I think to make it instead of the extra point would have made it 23 points. The 2 points would have made it 24. If they just gone for the extra point at the end when they kicked the field goal to make it 26-25, it actually would have been 26-26. Right, and that is the example of why I don't like chasing points. But I understand you're looking at your sheet. Probably you're going, oh, in this scenario we should go for 2. It was late too. It's not like he chased the points in the second quarter. It was second half, but still in retrospect, obviously it's easy to armchair quarterback it. But if you don't chase the points, that field goal you kicked, with about 5.5 to 6 minutes left in the game, would have tied the game. Instead, Penn State got the ball. They ran out the final 5 minutes and 48 seconds to be exact. Thanks in large part to a fantastic fake punt. I had a feeling that was coming. That was fake punt time. I sat there and I was like, oh, look, they're going to punt away. I was like, I don't think they are. I play safe here. And sure enough, they ran to perfection. Guy scampering down the field.
The camera panned to a kid in the stands before that play, and he goes, "They're gonna fake it," and he's like, "Watch the fake" or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep. Get that kid on the staff, PJ.
Next, Connor Stallions over there. Like, he knew their signs. That's how it works.
He's got the little glasses with the recording.
Did you see him with the Penn State shirt on? Right, he had just come back from their sideline. But Penn State, that keeps them in the conversation for the Big Ten title game because number 2 Ohio State, they topped number 5 Indiana 38-15 in Columbus. That puts Ohio State and Oregon in the driver's seat for the title game. Penn State will need Ohio State to lose to Michigan for them to get in. Indiana's probably going to need.
So is Oregon's already clinched, right?
Correct.
They clinched last week, actually. Yeah. Okay. So Oregon's in. So yeah, gotcha.
So Oregon will play either Penn State, Ohio State, or Indiana. Odds are to be Ohio State, but you never know. Rivalry game, right? And especially because Penn State plays Maryland, right? So they at home, I believe. So they get the easier road there. Exactly. Right. So, they kept themselves alive with that big win in Minnesota, and Ohio State stayed in that driver's seat with that win against Indiana. Oklahoma is straight up throttled. Number 7, Alabama, Roll Tide. Yeah, that was crazy. And it's in Norman. It's on the road. The Palace on the Prairie, I get it. But Oklahoma's not good.
No. Their offense is anemic.
Yes, objectively not good. Just watching them, just any eye test with them throughout the year, like, this team's not that good. So to see Alabama just get tossed around like that, I don't care if it's a road game at night, it can't happen.
No.
Right? Speaking of a statement window, number 6 Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, they roughed up number 19 Army to hand the Black Knights their first loss of the year, 49-14 in Yankee Stadium. Yes, it's a top 20 win for Notre Dame. Yes, they looked good doing it. Yes, they're hot. But their best wins this year, Army maybe.
Academies, yeah. However, to give Notre Dame their props for that, the academies give you fits.
Mm-hmm.
Always have. Like, it's a nightmare playing those teams. It's a nightmare
hard to prepare
for those teams. So give Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame credit for being ready. Like, you can, like, all these guys, almost every team Army plays has better athletes, right? And especially Notre Dame, they have much bigger, stronger, faster, better athletes, like all this, but you have to be prepared for what Army does and what the academies do. And that, I thought that was impressive that they immediately just took him out of the game from the start.
Yeah, because you're right. Really, the only way those service academies, the way they play, I know they've tried to air it out a little more recently, but they get behind. It's hard. It's hard. From all intents and purposes, is kind of lights out there. So you're right. I mean that's the biggest game plan is we jump on them early, right? And you're right. They were able to do that, sustain it, and never let Army get back into it. So it's still a good win. Even though neutral site service academy, still a good win.
Yeah. Now you have to survive and advance against USC.
Yeah, more rivalries.
You lose that game, I think you're out. Right? You can't have 2 losses with one of them being to NIU.
Yeah, because they have the worst loss of
they have the worst loss by far.
By far. Because I don't want
to. There's
no
no conference championship.
Yeah, exactly. That's the screwsome. I don't want to hear that Northern Illinois has a really good defense. I don't.
No, they're like 7th in the MAC or something. Like,
yeah, they have barely a win. 6-7 win MAC team is not good. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So you're right. It's a bad loss. USC is not good, but it's a rivalry game in the Coliseum, right? So that does have something to do with it. But you're right. What's going to hurt them is no conference championship. Because if there were a conference championship with this rivalry game against USC, that wouldn't affect their conference unless they join the Big Ten, right? Because we just assume they would join the ACC. It shouldn't matter that much, right? They would already have clinched a ACC championship game berth, and
then you win that, and you're in.
You win that, you win, right?
So yeah, they set it up purposely, right? Notre Dame did this to where we're not in a conference, so it's set up for us to get in. But if you lose these 2 games, your regular season matters just that one game more than other teams.
Yeah.
So if you lose these 2 games, you're out because you have no conference championship. But if you win and you're in, you get a built-in bye. You're never going to be in that 1 through 4 where you actually have the bye in the bracket.
But you get a home game.
You get a home game. We'll go through the rankings here in a second, but you get a home game, but you basically have a bye for championship week, right?
Correct.
So you beat USC, you're feeling really good. Let's just say that. You lose to USC, I don't think you're getting in. Yeah.
Well, I think that after the Ole Miss loss, after the Bama loss, after the Texas A&M loss, I think that sets Notre Dame up to, even if they lose, because who's going to jump them with 2 losses? Clemson.
Clemson.
But is that going to take the last spot though?
Yes, that would take the last spot.
Because are you having Notre Dame still higher than the 2-loss ACC champion?
So right now,
if Notre Dame's at 2 losses,
do you want me to share this?
Yeah, well, let's share it. But as you're sharing it, my question still stands: If Notre Dame's got 2 losses, are you ranking them ahead or below a 2-loss ACC Miami or 2-loss
I'm ranking
ACC
them
SMU?
below because if SMU and Miami go into this championship 11-1, which they should, right? If they go into that championship 11-1, the loser has 2 losses and it's in a championship game. So yeah, I'm ranking Notre Dame below because their 2 losses wouldn't be bad, right? SMU's 1 loss is to BYU by 3 points.
And their second loss would be to Miami,
and their second loss would be to the championship team. So same with Miami, their 1 loss I think is to Georgia Tech. We know Georgia Tech's a good team. So this is like. I would rank them below. You've already got SMU going. I mean, I know they're number 10 right now, but I think Clemson. I think you would get 3 ACC teams. I mean, essentially, you have 3 ACC teams with Notre Dame.
Yeah. Do you have the? Yeah, I want to see the rest of the top 25. I looking at this, I can't fully disagree with what I see here. The way Arizona State's playing, I would maybe have them. Gosh. Where they have them at 15, I think, in the polls. I may have them higher with the way they're playing.
Yeah, give me a second here.
But
see this. Look at this one
yes.
now. So here's Colorado at 25, down here.
Yeah,
and then work our way up.
South Carolina, that put them up that much.
Yeah, there's a logjam of these SEC teams. I think Arizona State should be up there, but like Indiana, I'd like Indiana to jump Tennessee. I think you swap those. That's what I would do. But
yeah,
there's only 1 undefeated team in the country right now.
And it's Oregon.
Yeah,
that's right. I'm looking at that right, and Tennessee being where they are, because I'm comparing them to your Bama's, Ole Miss, South Carolina, the A&M. Comparing them, they're not to me that much better than those schools,
and they're not going to be playing in a championship game.
Yeah,
so they have to beat Vandy. By the way,
which is no easy feat because Vandy's a good team.
Yes. So this is your official CFP rankings,
which for the most part are pretty close to what you see on the AP side. As you can see, the AP side on the right.
Tulane, I don't like Tulane that high.
For which side? Both sides, 17, 18. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, again, their only 2 losses is Oklahoma, who just throttled Alabama,
and Kansas
State,
right
who's
one Kansas State has 1 more loss.
24, 25, 26 in the country, something like that you would have them because they're the first team out in the AP poll. Tulane's good.
Is there a way where, because Arizona State's sitting 1 spot above them? Let's say Arizona State doesn't win the Big 12 championship. Let's say it's someone like BYU or Iowa State, and Tulane wins their conference championship,
which would be against Army.
Plays Memphis, right? Yeah.
Yes, Tulane plays Memphis, who's if you can see in the AP poll, they'd be the 27th ranked team in the country, so they're a good team. And then they would play Army in the AAC championship game. So that's 2 potentially rankable teams.
Correct.
Right?
So would a team like Iowa State or BYU jump to? This is why I don't like Tulane being ranked there, because now you have BYU or Iowa State. If they win the Big 12 over Arizona State, do they jump Tulane? Like you might not have a Big 12 team in anyway.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's messy. It became a lot messy after last weekend. Can you put the bracket back up?
Yeah,
please. But yeah, it's a lot messy. I mean, this I love because looking at that bracket, the little amount of teams that you thought would be there, right at the beginning of the year.
Arizona State was picked to finish last. Indiana was picked to finish way back.
Yeah.
Right. SMU was one of those like dark horse, like maybe.
Joining a new conference. Who knows how they'll fare?
Yep.
Right. So that's I love it. The criticism will be, well, why should Boise State, ranked 11th, get a bye?
Boise State's good.
Boise State's good, and this is the format we wanted. You spent all these years stressing the importance of conference champions.
By the way, Boise State's one loss, looking at it right here,
Oregon.
Was to Oregon at Oregon. Eugene by 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Ashton Janty, who, in my opinion, should win the Heisman, rushed for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in that game.
Yeah. No, they're deserving of that.
Yeah, people don't like the way they've played recently. Janty's been banged up a little bit, and they're in survive and advance mode.
Yes, they are.
Right,
they're getting everyone's best shot.
Yeah, when you time of year, it's survive and advance. I don't care if you blow a team out or you win by 1. I really don't care. You have to just get through these games. Like as we saw in the SEC, how many teams that were big favorites lost and got their ass kicked. Right? Yeah. Ole Miss screwed themselves. Alabama screwed themselves, right? You can't lose those games. If you want to be in this conversation, at the end of the day, you can't lose those games.
Yeah.
So, it is a survive and advance mode. This isn't style points anymore.
The one thing I don't like, I know this is going to change, the fact that there would be 2 conference games in Tennessee, Georgia, and Indiana, Penn State.
Yeah.
It's just more fun if it's
I agree.
A matchup you would never see.
Georgia right here.
SMU Notre Dame, right? That
I think this switches with Texas, right? I don't know, but Georgia beat Texas pretty good last time, so Georgia's in the SEC championship. By the way, Texas plays Texas A&M. Winner goes to the SEC championship. If Texas loses, let's say Texas loses at Texas A&M, we got some conversations.
Yes, no, I think
their schedules.
It's
as bad
Texas,
as Indiana's.
Yes. At the end of the day, their schedule turned out to not be that good. I think, again, there's amazingly with 1 game left, there's still so much. Not all 12 of these teams will be in the playoff.
No.
Right? This will change. No. I'm sticking with Georgia. I think they beat Georgia. They find a way to beat Georgia Tech, which may not matter if they win the SEC championship, but they're going to beat Georgia Tech. They're going to win the SEC championship. They may wind up on that top 4 line, and they're going to win the national championship. When it's all said and done, you have to trust their coach, their leader, the most out of any of those other coaches. I know how much you love Dan Lanning.
I love Dan Lanning. He has not.
Marcus Freeman's done a phenomenal job. Right, Rhett Lashley at SMU is phenomenal. James Franklin's choked in a lot of the big moments.
Day's,
right, Heupel's been good, but hasn't had these moments. Ryan Day.
Tennessee's team doesn't feel championship worthy, right? Still waiting on that offense to show up and match the defense. If that offense can match, if they figure it out here and that offense matches the defense, they're ridiculously dangerous.
Yes, I agree.
But Oregon, I still love Oregon. You go Georgia, I'll go Oregon.
They're still in the driver's seat, but especially with the way this is set up, I would not be shocked in the least bit if they lose their opening playoff game. Oregon does. They run the table and lose that game. It's just the way that the soap opera that is college football plays out. And again, I'm going with the coach in the crunch time, so I'll go with Kirby Smart in Georgia.
Well, this is why we love this format, because we get to earn it. If Oregon's not championship worthy and they lose, then that's okay. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, because they decided it on the field. It wasn't people in writers with nerds with glasses scribbling their notes like I do every day.
All your stupid metrics and stuff. Yeah. So, this is fun. I love this, but yeah, there's a lot of talk this week, the last couple weeks, about how the SEC is so good and everything, and they should get all these teams in. They may only get 3. Right,
said that only. That's a quarter.
The Big Ten has 4.
I get it.
The SEC, I think, is the best conference, but I also think
you got to earn
that there's parity. There's way more parity in college football. I want to scream it from a mountaintop. I didn't have a mountaintop. I had a newsroom and a camera. There's parity.
Veronica Corningstone.
There's parity in college football across the Power
for the first time ever.
Yeah, and it's because of NIL and the transfer portal. As much as we
conference realignment,
as much as we don't like some of the things with the transfer portal, which I think it should be a set period of free agency. And as much as some people don't like that NIL is like being used not in the way that it was supposed to be, like it's being used pretty much to buy recruits. I actually don't care.
Here's a Lamborghini, son.
Yeah, I actually have no problem with the NIL being a free for all right now because it's capitalism, right? If it doesn't work out with this kid that just got paid $12 million to go to Michigan or whatever, that's on you. That's your bad investment, right? And other teams will take notes. Either they're going to need to step up and pay more money, or they're going to realize it's stupid to pay this amount of money, and we need to spread it to linemen or whatever it is. So I actually love that it's a free for all.
Yeah, what's the line? Capitalism, man's way of determining who is smart and who is poor. Yep.
Yes. It's the only way. It's what makes America great, England okay, and France terrible.
Yes, thank you. Anything else college football-wise before I move on to some more college sports?
Oh, sir.
I like it. Dead air? Did you got that queued up? Can we have that?
You actually want me to play
I want you to play it. Please play.
Is that
in honor of his 80th birthday that was last week.
Is it actually?
Yeah, I believe it was last week.
That's incredible. Dead air.
Thank you, Frank. Moving on to college basketball, men's college basketball. It is feast week, as they like to call it. This week, last week, and maybe a little next week. These are some of the most fun games from the college basketball landscape, men's and women's, that you'll see this year, because right after this, that you go into finals, so they kind of take a break. Then you got your winter break, and then they start conference play really in January, so you get those traditional matchups. But this is where you get matchups that are very reminiscent of what you might see in the NCAA tournament, and the results, as we've seen the last few days, very close to what you see in the NCAA tournament in terms of the sheer madness of what happened. So, I'm going to start with Jeremy Roach from
Leesburg,
Virginia. He hit the game-winning buzzer-beater 3 in double overtime as Baylor outlasted St. John's 99-98 in the Bahamas. The Bears were down as many as 18 points in the first half, but came back to force overtime. In the first overtime, Baylor had a 5-point lead with under 2 minutes left. Blew that lead as the Johnnies were able to force 2 OTs. In the second overtime, St. John's actually built a 5-point lead with 18 seconds left. They had a 5-point lead with 18 seconds left, but they gave up a 3 to preseason Big 12 Freshman of the Year, VJ Edgecombe, and then they missed 2 free throws with 4.1 seconds left, and that set up Roach's buzzer beater for the win. Bonkers finish and game in general. Speaking of some more bonkers stuff, Memphis, they went on a 21-9 run to build a 12-point lead with 3 minutes left in regulation against UConn. The two-time defending champs, the Huskies, they closed on a 15-3 run in those final, 2 minutes and change, which is crazy. And they tied the game with 1 second left to force overtime in Maui on Hassan Diarra's three-pointer. On great shot. I mean, it was good when it left his hand. But then in the OT session, with 40 seconds left, the teams are tied at 92. UConn gets called for a foul, and then Dan Hurley loses his freaking mind for whatever reason.
That was like the 20th time he lost his mind in that game.
I'm sure it was. And so he gets teed up. Again, this is tied at 92-92 with 40 seconds left in overtime. Memphis gets 4 free throws. They convert all 4, give the kid credit to knocking those down.
When you're standing there on the line by yourself, it is weird.
Yes.
That's not an easy free in that moment too. Those are not easy free throws.
Yep. So give him the onions and the credit for that. They took that lead. They wouldn't relinquish that. They went on to win 99-97. Pretty impressive win.
Oh, by the way, the guy Solo Ball that hit that 3, you know where he's from? He's also from Leesburg.
Is he really?
Yeah, but he played at Brewster Academy though, in I think New Hampshire or something. That's why he went to Connecticut. But
that's incredible.
He's from who's it? Dan Schulman is doing it.
Yeah, and Jay Billis.
Him and Jay. Yeah, he in the first half he splashed a 3 and he goes, "Oh, and the young man from Leesburg, Virginia," and I was like, "What?
What's
his name?
Prestige
it's
worldwide.
Solo Ball.
Wide,
It's Solomon Ball or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's the guy that made the 3 to tie it up.
No, Hassan Diarra did, didn't he?
No, he did not. It was solo ball.
I thought he passed it to him.
Diarra took the shot at the end that missed.
Okay,
solo
whatever.
ball was the one that tied it up.
My research.
Get your facts correct.
I was straight from the box score.
Box score is wrong. I literally watched it. It's a lefty shot. That's solo ball. Diarra's ready.
I kind of thought that, but that's what the box score said.
The
so
box
I
score
went
is
with
wrong. Yeah, don't
box
trust ESPN's box score.
Wrong.
Yeah,
all wrong.
Solo ball.
Kevin Bacon. No, he wasn't in Footloose. But yeah, that's interesting. I like that. More comebacks for you down in Maui, which has turned out to be a fantastic tournament so far.
Oh, amazing.
Down 16 at halftime. Auburn stormed back in the second half to beat Iowa State 83-81 thanks to Johnny Broom's game-winning putback with a second left. A matchup of top 5 teams. I think number 4 versus number 5.
Janai Broom?
Janai? I thought it was Johnny.
I don't know. I thought it was Johnny Broom the whole time until Seth Greenberg was saying Janai Broom on the halftime.
Mr. Broom.
Yeah.
Mr. Broom.
Either way, that guy's the I believe preseason favorite for the Naismith.
Was he? I thought that was Hunter Dickinson, but he was up there. He was in the conversation. He's a guy who's
Dickinson. He's up there. He was a preseason finalist.
Yes. Yep. So big time players make big time plays. More comebacks. All right. Trailing by as many as 21 points. UNC came all the way back to defeat Dayton 92-90. Thanks to 30 points from R.J. Davis and 27 from Seth Trimble. It's the worst loss for Dayton to North Carolina since they blew a 2-0 Wright brothers lead in 1903.
What a stat.
Yep.
Absolutely love that stat.
Dayton's the Flyers for a reason.
They are the Flyers for a reason.
That's why. That's where they were from. Orville and Wilbur. Yeah, that's the crazy. They didn't even have to go to overtime. They came all the way back for that. UNC's got some firepower. I'm noticing a lot of high scoring, not a lot of great defense. Or maybe just better offense. Is it everyone just can shoot so much better now?
The Memphis-UConn game was great basketball. That was extremely hard defense. If that went to overtime, which is why the score got higher. But those are big-time players making big-time plays. There was nothing easy in that game. Those were just
no. Yes, a lot of those shots were very contested. Yeah.
Yes, that was just really good basketball plays.
Speaking of overtimes. Another game with a lot of overtimes. LSU, they erased a 15-point halftime deficit to force OT versus UCF. And the teams, they just enjoyed playing so much that they decided, let's play 2 more overtimes after the first one. And at the end of the day, in the third OT, the Tigers eventually prevailed over the Knights 109-102. They probably were all exhausted and took a nice nap after that. And this last one, this is for you, boy. The Drake. Got to love the Drake.
Absolutely love the Drake.
The Drake claimed the Shriners Children's Charleston Classic, say that 5 times fast, with an 81-70 win over Vanderbilt. Drake won every game of that tournament by double digits, which included the 2 previous games versus Miami and Florida Atlantic. Got to love the Drake.
Oh, yeah. By the way, Ben McCullum, who's their coach now. So what happened with Drake is that their head coach went to West Virginia, actually, in the offseason. So he was...
Was that DeVries?
That was DeVries, Darian DeVries. Yes.
And his son,
Tucker DeVries, who was the 2-time Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year. And they won the Missouri Valley the last 2 years. This is a team that was dangerous, and I believe they should have won their game in March last year. I think they lost, and they should have won it. But anyway, DeVries goes to West Virginia, takes 3 or 4 of his guys with him. Then Drake has to find their coach, so they reach out to Ben McCullum, who is D2 Northwest Missouri State, I believe, was the team he was coaching, where he made a dynasty. He won 4 straight national championships in Division II. So he goes to Drake. He brings with him 4 guys from D2, including my new favorite player, Bennett Sturts. This guy's awesome.
He's got some bounce.
Yes, he's very athletic, and he's always under control. He actually had the worst game I saw him play was in that championship, and then he figured it out. But this Drake team, all just underdogs, and they looked fantastic. They are connected. They played. They were talking about. They're like, this guy's like Tony Bennett, the way he coaches his defense and the way his teams play, and they play at their pace. He's so good of a coach. and I absolutely love this team. There's actually much better athletes too on this team than you realize. Their transfer from Wyoming, one of the bigs, I forgot his name, but he was great.
Something Rodriguez.
No, but they fundamentally sound so well. The amount I saw multiple box outs, multiple times, ball went up where they boxed out. Every single guy and the ball landed. It bounced and then they grabbed it against much bigger, much more athletic, quote unquote, more athletic teams. They were fantastic. I absolutely love this Drake team.
Got to love the Drake.
I'm all in.
That's the next clip we need from you, Kamlo. Something about the Drake.
Love the Drake.
Until they lose, and then you hate the Drake.
You hate the Drake.
Probably
and the Drake cat.
Do this whole thing again.
Yep. Drake, located where? Boy.
Des Moines.
Yeah.
Iowa.
Yes, very good. Des Moines in the native tongue, which is French, for whatever reason. Thank you. Anything else college basketball-wise before we go on?
Pitt, Wisconsin in the Greenbrier. By the way, that was played in the Greenbrier hotel.
Yeah, which is
pretty
cool.
Sweet. It was pretty sweet. It was hard. It was a little difficult to watch. I didn't like the angle that the camera's at. But
what's it? Tanji?
Yeah, Tanji's fantastic.
30-some points, I think, in that championship game.
He was like averaging like 30 a game in that tournament. But Pitt is also really, really good.
Yeah,
they lost. Dunn, one of their best players, got hurt. He's out. He's going to be out for like 6 weeks. I think he had surgery on his thumb, which is a tough loss for them because this Pitt team they've got shot makers. I really like the way that team's built.
Shoddy shot makers. Jeff Capel still the coach?
Yes,
good coach.
Yeah, he is. Like he's legitimately building a program because they were not good like 2 years ago
when he took them over. No,
yeah. So he's building a program. I like this Pitt team and Wisconsin. That's a huge win. By the way, these tournaments are not just like fun to watch as fans and like you find out a lot about your team. These are important for a lot of these lower teams
to build a resume.
To build a resume, yeah. Wisconsin gets a huge win. Pitt gets a couple of huge wins. Drake gets massive wins.
I mean, it almost doesn't matter what happens to the three teams.
They'll be a two-bid. They could be a two-bid league in the Missouri Valley. So yeah,
Who's the other bid?
These are big.
Going to
Indiana State. Sycamores.
The Sycamores. They still good. Their coach left. Remember, took Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with them.
No,
Kareem.
Yeah, St. Louis. They're at St. Louis.
Oh, he is.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. He's a
Robbie Avila. Is that
Avila? Yeah, Avila. He's a Billiken now.
I believe so. Yes.
I have to look up that
conference.
Well, they could get two bids if someone upsets Drake in the tournament.
The Drake. Got to love the Drake.
Love the Drake.
All right, moving on. NFL wise, all right, we are we're getting on Thanksgiving. When you get to Thanksgiving, that's when you really got to take a look at the standings and the playoff picture, as they love to say. They ought to register trademark that. But I'm going to start off craziness in D.C. or Landover, Maryland, I should say. Right during the fourth quarter of the Cowboys Commanders game, it just went nuts. Teams combined for 41 points in that fourth quarter. By the way, and really the craziness, the biggest craziness, let's just put it that way, started with Kevontae Turpin's 99-yard kickoff return when he fumbled the ball there, got up and planted a spin move of spin moves. It's not even a spin move; it's a juke. Is really what that is.
That was
a juke
nasty.
Of jukes. It's so bad he put these guys almost on their face and then goes untouched down the whole field, right? And that stretched the Cowboys' lead to 27-17 because it was 20-17 at that point, right? The Commanders get the ball back, right? They convert a 51-yard field goal with about 1:40 left. Very calculated decision, very smart on their part to do that, to pull a get back in one touchdown range. It's 27-20 at that point. They go for the onside kick. Oh, sorry. They get the ball back. Excuse me. Right, because that was calculated. They kick the field goal, get the ball back. They miss that onside kick. They get it back. And there's about 30 seconds left. And Jaden Daniels connects with scary Terry McLaurin, who goes untouched, inexplicably, 86 yards for the would-be game-tying score. So it's 27-26 at this point. However, Washington kicker Austin Seibert, who I don't think had missed a kick all year. Like, he had been fantastic this year, right? He shanked the PAT.
Yeah, bad snap, too.
Bad snap doesn't matter, though, because a fantastic hold by Tressway. Fantastic hold. Not a good snap. The hold got there, though. The snap could have thrown the rhythm off the kicker. You don't know, but it was not a good snap. It's still
3-yarder or whatever.
Just shanked it, right? So it's 27-26. They go for another onside kick. This time, Thomas picks it up and runs it all the way back for the touchdown with 14 seconds left. But if he just catches the ball and falls to the ground, the game's over, right? And so that touchdown only put them up 8, right? Which is one score, which we've already seen Washington convert a Hail Mary once already this year. So you could see McCarthy and John Fossil, who's maybe the best special teams coach in the league. John, like, literally puzzled, like, what are you doing? Just fall to the ground. But my man got a touchdown, so that's all that matters, right? They get another shot. Daniel's Hail Mary comes up short, and Dallas escapes with a 34-26 victory, putting them, 4-7, I think is what they're at?
They have 4 wins.
4-7, 5-7, and
they have 4 wins.
4-7, which crazily enough still puts them in playoff position, because if they're able to beat the lowly Giants, who maybe won't even have Tommy Cutlets on Thanksgiving, that puts them at 5-7, which is totally in the hunt, which is nuts because my goodness, is just Dallas terrible. But good win for the Cowboys, bad loss for the Commanders. But that is as crazy of a final couple minutes that you will ever see in football.
Tommy Cutlets might still play on Thanksgiving.
He might. But the Giants suck something awful.
Discrimination in that game.
Yeah,
Baker Mayfield.
Did you see the interview he gave after the game? He said him and DeVito were friends, and it was more like a
that's how you. Oh yeah, we're just Kamlo, you work in a place where there's a lot of bad shit that happens, right? As do I, and that's the first excuse it always is. Oh, just friends, friends. Oh, I didn't mean anything by it. Just pop the kid in the nose, but we're just friends. Yeah. And you're just friends. All right, here you go. Doesn't matter. You go on your way. Who cares? So yes, good example you're setting there, Baker, because the next generation is just gonna feed off that. Thank you.
On the subject of work and stealing people's go-to signature thing, we have a guy at work. His thing is when Aaron Rodgers had the discount double check championship belt thing. He commandeered that to make it the championship belt for asshole moves for the day. So this guy will come by my office, and I have a sign on my door. It's a little slider that says feel free to knock, and then if you slide it over, it says do not disturb. And he's always just he'll walk by and flip it to feel free to knock. Yeah. And so I'll get all these people knocking on my door, and I'll finally be what is going on? And I'll look down the hallway, and he'll be
hey, lesson learned, don't masturbate at work. It's just that simple.
Yeah, I mean, right? It was
without a story.
Yeah. I love it. And then I found $5.
Yeah, and I found 5 big ones.
Moving on, I know you guys saw this. Nick Chubb, he ran home his second touchdown of the game with 57 seconds left as the Browns took down the division-leading Pittsburgh Steelers 24-19 in Cleveland for this year's first snow game. Happened on Thursday night.
Sweet.
It was so awesome. Dude,
amazing.
Before we even get into the details, can we just please agree that Jameis Winston is just the most wholesome, wonderful person in the whole world?
Did you see his? They had
the horses are ready for battle, and the glory be to God.
They had him mic'd up for that. At one point, he's doing I think it was going towards the end of the quarter, a 2-minute warning or whatever it was, and he's doing the hard count to try to get Pittsburgh to jump, and he's going through his hard count, he's going through it or whatever, and Pittsburgh's not moving. He goes, Just jump off sides, damn it.
We ready for some snow football? It's a beautiful day. I'm so grateful.
Oh my God, I love him.
He's
was
the best.
Like, I was not shocked in one bit that Pittsburgh lost that game because Jameis Winston is the ultimate wild card. He's the one guy you just can't prepare for. You knew he was going to do something.
My feet are trudging through the snow.
The second it started snowing, I was like, this might be tough. Jameis is going to pull something out of his ass.
And he did.
Dude, he did. He pulled that, what was it, like a 15-yard touchdown run? Oh my gosh, dude. I love Jameis Winston.
He was falling over, Nick Herbig almost had him, and then Jameis scrambled out. Yeah, that was...
Anytime he has something remotely entertaining to say on camera, I save it to a folder. And if I ever feel like I'm starting to if my day is starting to skew bad, I go to the Jameis folder, and it's just endless laughs, pain everywhere. Where was the pain, Jameis? Just pain everywhere. I would 100% get a Jameis Winston jersey from I don't care what team and rock it all the time.
Won a national championship at Florida State.
No, I'm gonna go New Orleans Saints. Jameis Winston.
After he was unceremoniously booted from there for the whatever stupid thing he pulled last year, where they wouldn't take a knee at the goal line.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's why you want
teams. Tampa, New Orleans, Cleveland. Is that it?
Tampa, Cleveland, New Orleans.
Tampa. He was number 1 overall pick to
Tampa.
To Tampa.
Yeah.
Didn't he have 40? It was 40 something touchdowns and 30 interceptions or something.
I can't say it enough. I just love Jameis Winston.
Gunslinger. You're an ultimate wild card. You go out there, he's going to throw 4 touchdowns, but you also throw 4 picks, and
you never know.
I think they turned the ball over twice in that game. It
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Jameis is just he's one of a kind.
Mm-hmm.
There's I mean, it's just bottom line. I think the league needs him.
Or does he need the league?
It's eyes on the league for a totally different demographic and reason. And he's just so funny and wholesome, for a guy who got suspended and benched in games for stealing crab legs and yelling obscenities and yelling obscenities in the chow hall. I mean, now he's on the biggest stage in the world, starting snowball fights after a snow win. You know what I mean?
Who improved their, I guess their
stock
perception more, Jameis or DeChambeau?
DeChambeau.
Because
that's a good question.
Because DeChambeau means more to that sport. All right, we're talking about a multiple-time major champion.
Kamlo,
right?
Differ.
Jameis doesn't really mean much. The Browns aren't going to make the playoffs unless they rattle off every game this year, which could happen, right? But they're not going to make the playoffs. It's just going to be kind of a funny footnote. But DeChambeau is competing in majors in the biggest events, and you're seeing the crowd at the biggest events.
I have such a good retort.
Yes. Allow me to retort. Look at the big brains on Brett.
So Bryson trending down right now because of his hole-in-one over the house challenge that he's doing for himself. No. I don't have an issue with it. I've watched all 15 days.
I've watched them too.
No, the people are talking so much shit about him. We get it, dude. You have a glass house that live in Saudi money bought you. Good job. Wow. You're So
I think you're just listening to the haters. I don't think.
I listen to it all.
Silent majority is a real thing, and I'm
going to continue with my point now.
Believe it or not, I think more people like that.
And on the other side, you have an organization who has had so much flack for guaranteeing a contract for Deshaun Watson,
which is just terrible.
Whose fans literally cheered when he went off the field to make room for a guy whose optics couldn't be further in the other direction. Now we have people that are actually watching the Browns, talking about the Browns. I mean, you tag the Browns in any of these Jameis Winston clips and it's views on your organization. He's good for the organization. He's good for the sport as a whole.
Yeah,
whereas Bryson is
he's
a
good
defector
for the sport
who
on the whole. He is. He's bringing fans into it, and again, the other thing is he'll have a more lasting impact. Is what I'm saying. This may be the last time we see Jameis Winston start a game. He hadn't started a game in over 2 years, right? He's probably not going to be on the Browns next year, right? So it's different when it's a team sport. DeChambeau being on his own team himself, and will be competing, you would think, for the foreseeable future in all these major events. That means more.
Okay,
Bryson won't compete in the major events, though.
Who's more likable? Not
Jameis.
who. Yeah,
Jameis.
I agree. Jameis.
100% Jameis.
Jameis. Can't say anything about him.
Also, Bryson's also kind of not getting any benefit there because it is his off season.
Correct. Yes, he has to put out content for his YouTube, which he's good at.
Yes.
But Jameis is just so damn funny.
He's so funny, dude. Gosh,
are you laughing with him or laughing at him?
I originally was laughing at him at the beginning when he was eating W's, trying to hype his team up and pump him up. I was laughing directly at him. I'm pretty sure I commented on a video and tagged him in it and said, "You're a clown" years ago.
But here you're part of the.
But here I am years and years later, watching videos of him sitting at the desk saying, when I was taking my kids to school this morning, I thought, man, how wonderful would it be to eat some snow? So after this win, I'm definitely going to eat some snow tonight. I'm laughing with him. It's so wholesome, dude. It's right on the cusp of wholesome and cringe, and it makes me feel good, right? Like I said, I watch the videos if I feel like I'm having a bad day, or if my day doesn't get off to the start that I want, I can watch a Jameis Winston go to the folder, just click any of them, and it's gold. It's a conversation. Jerry. It's a conversation we have at work. Did you see the funny thing Jameis said last night?
It's gold, Jerry. Gold.
Yeah.
He's the Kenny Banya of the NFL,
and he's eating your laughs.
Yes, exactly. Moving on, the Bears, they scored 11 points in the final 30 seconds, thanks to Caleb Williams' pass to Keenan Allen, and then the successful 2-point conversion to DJ Moore, coupled with Cairo Santos' 48-yard field goal as time expired to force overtime versus the Vikings. However, Minnesota's kicker John Parker Romo, any relation to Tony? I don't think so. Converted the game-winning 29-yard field goal with 2:10 left in OT for a Vikings 30-27 victory. No Vikings fans getting upset with that one. What's the name that Robin Rashad Tarkenton is how she says?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Damn.
31-yard field goal as time expired to give the two-time defending champs a 30-27 victory in Charlotte. They are, they're winning games, which I love. I hate the idea of saying not as good as their record. Your record is what you are, right? It's bullshit to say.
Yeah.
Right?
I wouldn't go so far as to say that.
There's their margin for error, and some of these games are shrinking, but maybe it's helping them down the road.
So I definitely wouldn't say they're not as good as their record. I agree with you, Nick. You are what your record is, right? But that game
and losing games are skill sets.
That game, although the Chiefs won, that game just cemented my opinion that the Lions are the best team in football this year.
Until someone knocks off the Chiefs.
I'm all in on the Lions. Best team, number one.
Sure, I will say it sure looks like that. Who's playing the best football? Who, if you just took names off helmets and names off the back of jerseys, you line the teams up and went to play the Lions would be the team that are the best. But Lions, I am with Lions, the boy. Bills, you have to go with Eagles, the Chiefs until
proven otherwise.
Yes.
Until someone beats them in the postseason, they're still the best team to me. I understand what you're saying because of what we've seen, the Lions look like
the best team in football, which is crazy.
But if they match, but so you're saying that if they matched up in the postseason right now, you're thinking the Chiefs?
I will never bet against Kansas City.
No, you can't. Until they lose. Fool. Yeah,
until they lose. If they play the Lions, I'm still going to pick Kansas City.
But I'd be rooting for the Lions.
Of the field.
I would be rooting for the Lions. I would be hoping the Lions win and someone knocks off Kansas City, and I think the Lions are a better team. But until someone does it, I will never bet against Kansas City. I think it'd be foolish.
I agree.
Give me the Lions.
Write it down. Speaking of, maybe not necessarily foolish, but disastrous was the way I would describe this. The Texans had a disastrous final 2 minutes of their game. I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah, that's
Kaimi Fairbairn, who's a fantastic kicker, by the way. I'd argue top 5 kicker in the league. He missed a 28-yard field goal that would have tied the game. And then, when they get the ball back with a little over a minute left, QB CJ Stroud, who was phenomenal last year, this year, he pulled a Dan Orlovsky and ran out the back of the end zone for a safety that cemented the game as the Texans fell to the lowly Titans, 32-27 at home. By the way, that was hard.
Can't have that one.
No, you can't. That's one of those. You're right. You can't have that. You do maybe even on the road if that happens. You go, all right, whatever.
It's a bad win for the Titans, though.
I know they don't want that win.
That's
a bad. Like, goddamn.
Damn it, Vakaitis, learn fucking English.
Yeah. And the last thing, NFL wise, before
dogs, Jackie. Corn dogs.
Thank you, Father Pat. Last thing, NFL wise, before we display the standings and talk about that for a little bit, but Saquon Barkley from
Penn State.
Thank you. Just keep me on your toes.
Do you want the other one, like Allen? I believe he's Allentown.
Yeah, want that one too. Throw that one out there. Allentown, right?
I believe he's from Allentown.
Bethlehem, Allentown, Lehigh, something.
Oh God, we never went through Lehigh in college football. Did you see what happened with them?
No.
They beat Lafayette in I think it was the first time they beat Lafayette in a while or something. Or the first time they've had a certain number of wins in their season. So they beat Lafayette, which is I think the third oldest continuous rivalry in sports or something.
No, it's the oldest.
It's
the oldest in all divisions. 3-2 FCS, FBS. Lehigh Lafayette is the oldest and most continuously played rivalry game.
So Lehigh won the game. They tore down the goalposts.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And then they put it in the Lehigh River. Well, the Lehigh River from Lehigh's football stadium is not exactly that close. And they have to go through Bethlehem to get there. That is just hills going. I used to live there. That's literally just hills up and down going through the river. I think it was 4 miles. They took this goalpost.
4 miles.
Golly.
That was probably the more impressive. I don't think I've seen something I know there was who had a long.
It was Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt.
A mile and a half, 2 miles, something like that down Broadway.
Through Broadway, yeah. But this one's way worse.
Casual 5K. Jesus.
Yeah, up and down the hills. Do you know Lehigh's nickname?
I'm out.
The Mountain Hawks.
Correct. They used to be the Engineers. Now they're the Mountain Hawks. But it's an absolute
great change.
They're literally sitting on top of a mountain, and then there's hawks everywhere. Anyway, I just
fight like a crow.
I just slipped that one in.
And I slip in. All right. Well, Saquon Barkley from that area of that Commonwealth. He ran for 255 yards and 2 touchdowns on 26 carries, which, if you're wondering, that's 9.8 yards per carry. 10 yards a clip as the Eagles beat the Rams 37-20 Sunday night. Mac from South Philly was there, by the way.
He was. I did see that.
Hey-o.
And NFL-wise, anything else before we show the standings? Someone got that up for us?
I got the standings up right now.
All right. Give it to me. Hit me.
So, in the NFC, Eagles on top of the East, Seahawks on top of the West, Lions and Falcons in the North and South, Giants, your clubhouse leader in worst record.
Really? Over the Jaguars? Go to the AFC's up top.
So they're tied now.
Yeah, right.
Both 2-9.
Yeah.
No, Raiders are there too. I forgot about the Raiders. The quiet 2-9.
Raiders.
That is a quiet 2-9.
The Oakland, Las Vegas Raiders. So I mean, you got a big race in the AFC North between the Steelers and the Ravens. Ravens have a game Steelers have a game in hand. Is that how that works?
Yeah, Steelers are a game ahead of the Ravens.
No, but
they have the tiebreaker.
What Kamlo's saying is the Steelers have played one less game than Baltimore.
Yes. Correct.
They're up a half game in that division, is what they
yes,
be. They got a game, right?
By the way, the Steelers just played their first 2 division games.
Mm-hmm. One in the hand is worth 2 in the bush.
I think there's something about birds in there, if I'm not mistaken.
Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. This is how small birds, big stone.
The NFC Wild Wild West is staying pretty much where it was last week.
The Big 12.
Yeah, you got 2 6-5 teams, 2 5-6 teams. It's up for grabs. But there are a lot of teams that can clinch, right?
The NFC North is brutal.
I mean, think about the Chicago. The Bears could have 2-3 more wins.
It's just organizationally bad.
Yes.
Yeah, but God, we talked about how fantastic
Green Bay,
Detroit
Minnesota, and Detroit.
Minnesota's the quietest 9-2 team I think I've seen in a long time.
I mean, the thing with Sam Darnold is their quarterback. They're playing a backup, right? J.J. McCarthy, their first-round pick this year, got hurt preseason, right? I mean, one thing I do want to point out, I believe I heard Howie Long touch on this, the great Howie Long. Howie Long from?
I don't know. Did you go to UVA?
I went to Villanova.
His kid went to UVA. Oh, he went to Villanova. I did not know that.
But yes, Chris Long went to UVA. Kyle Long went to Oregon.
Yes. I knew that.
So all over the map there. But Howie was saying he looked at the running backs, right, in the NFL right now, and he said there are a lot of guys who are told you're overvalued, and their teams let them go, who are dominating. Saquon, we just touched on, is one. Derrick Henry's another.
Yes.
Aaron Jones in Minnesota is one. And Josh Jacobs in Green Bay is another. They may be the 4 best running backs in the NFL right now. All of them are on different teams than what they were on last year. And I don't value running backs as much because of the propensity to get injured and the fact that there's so many guys out there you could have a stable of backs and succeed with it. Mm-hmm. But there is something to be said for that bell cow who takes the ball. It's like that starting pitcher who takes the ball every time, right? So just like in MLB, there's not that many bell cow starting pitchers. There really aren't. There's not a lot of bell cow running backs, but the bell cow ones need to be valued. The problem is what happens is someone will get a huge contract, and that sets the market. So teams are overpaying for some guy who's not a bell cow, correct. And that's what had been happening where they're just basically throwing money away at some guy who's not good enough or injured, and so teams stop doing it. And I think that's where you gotta. I know microeconomics is the way it is that setting a market and this is the price, right? I understand that, but there needs to be some thought process on a different level of look at this individual because Saquon Barkley is freaking amazing, right? For the fact that the Giants to say, oh, you're overvalued because of your position or give Daniel Jones all the money is so fireable. I mean, that is fireable to the point where you should be unhireable. And, right, that's the issue more is that, yes, running backs are not as valuable as they once were. But the dudes are dudes. McCaffrey's another one. He's a dude. Those guys have value. The middling guy, though, doesn't. And that's, for whatever reason, so hard for these teams to figure that out. And that has caused some issues, but you're seeing these teams that those guys are winning.
But, that's, just to kind of, it's in the same breath, not quite exactly what you were talking about, but, if you remember, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about Derrick Henry and how dominant he's been and how good he's looked in Baltimore. Remember, it wasn't that long ago that, pundits and analysts were all saying, what's Baltimore doing? If they're gonna sign this guy, you just have to hope he gets injured early so he can be back for the playoff push. they weren't saying if, they were saying when. Like, it was a definite thing, right? But, like, Saquon's doing well in Philadelphia because Jalen Hurts can help shoulder the load a little bit. Lamar obviously can help shoulder the load. I mean, it's not exactly running back by committee, but, like, they're bigger, better than ever right now. I mean, they don't look anything like
Sometimes
what they
also
looked.
like when you get into like that new team, you get like that refresh, right?
Yes.
Change of scenery.
Change of scenery helps a lot with those guys. And
I think so.
Think about Derrick Henry going to a Harbaugh coach team.
Yes.
You know they're going to run the football. You know that offensive line is going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
You know they're going to feature him,
Mm-hmm.
right? Nick Sirianni in Philly. You know he needed to get back to running the football, right?
Yeah.
That offensive line is the best in the
It
NFL.
is
right?
easily the best.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even without your maybe the best center ever.
Not maybe
retiring.
The best center ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even with Jason Kelce retiring, your offensive line is still ridiculously good.
Yes.
So now you add one of the best, most explosive running backs we've seen in like a generation.
100%.
And they're keeping him healthy because, I mean, some of the holes he was running through, like you saw, oh my God. Like, drive the truck through it. Their line is
I watched
phenomenal.
That like 70-yard run, I think I watched like 6 times in a row because the center pancakes. I think the safety coming down or whoever it was that came down. Like, the center just came in, just pancakes.
Is it or is the right
guard?
69 Landon Dickerson?
Regardless of who it was,
I think
Jason Kelce
guy
got
comes down and he just goes
up
boom and just destroys the guy. You're right.
I just kept rewatching. I was like, this is amazing.
Yes. No, they are. That's as good of an offensive line as you will ever see.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing with offensive lines is staying healthy. If they can stay healthy, they have a shot at any game, regardless of the weather conditions, where they play, who they play. Doesn't matter. If you can have those 5 guys stay there and line up, right? Mailata, is it Scruggs or who took over at center? He's I forgot his name. He's actually doing really well. Landon Dickerson is 69 in the guard. I believe he's the one you saw at the pancake. Lane Johnson at right tackle is probably the best right tackle in the league.
Cam Jurgens.
Cam Jurgens. That's right.
I thought Cam Jurgens.
Jurgens, soft J.
Jurgens. It might be a soft J.
From Nebraska. Yeah. Taking the words out of your mouth. And gosh, I forget the left guard is also very good. I forget.
So Landon Dickerson is the right guard.
Right guard, I believe.
You got Trevor Keegan, Tyler Steen. One of those guys.
They look great.
That's not who I thought was a left guard.
Nick Gates is the backup center, I think.
But anyway, that's as good of an offensive line as you're going to find. Offensive line play wins because if you can control that line of scrimmage and those really yard to 2 yards is what it is. It's not a lot. If you can control that space, you control the game. You dictate everything. You are
also
on
a
the
reason
front
they're
foot.
the only ones that can do the brotherly shove or tush push.
Because they're that good.
Tush push.
Yes, that play is not that successful for other teams.
No,
they don't have the dogs to do it. They don't have the athleticism because their line has always been super athletic. Jason Kelce is so athletic, right? He started out as a running back. I don't know if you know that. He walked on the Cincinnati football team as a running back.
Did he really?
Yes. Walked on. Right?
I did not know he was a walk-on.
So, he was able to do that, and you're right. You have to have athleticism to do it because you're in such a tight space. It's not solely power because you're having to manipulate kind of almost wrestling, right? And to do that, the other teams, that's right, they can't do it as well.
No, how many times have you seen that?
Just get freaking
over and
demolished
over again.
Mm-hmm.
And remember when the NFL was thinking about outlawing it because it was unfair?
That's such ridiculous.
There's one team that can do it.
Oh, it's unfair that one team figured out how to do this play better than everyone else. So
also,
I'll take my ball and go home.
Yeah. Also, remember when Sirianni was on the hot seat earlier this year? It's the dumbest thing. They're 9-2.
Moving on, because before we
time
go blue,
is what he's indicating there.
When we go blue in the face from talking about dumb stuff, we'll move on to our Mimosa Minute this week, which is brought to you as always by Main & Co. the creators of the Modern Mimosa. Follow them on Instagram at maine.co and visit them at mainsip.com. That is MAYNESIP.com to order yours today. Maine & Co. championing women's athletics since 2020. Why are you laughing, Kamlo?
It sounded like a spelling bee. Sorry, continue.
Country of origin, please.
Yeah. I like to buy a vowel, please. Yeah. Is that allowed? My first thing for my Mimosa Minute this week was golf, right? We talked about this. The CME Group Tour Championship was this week. Gino Titicol, she won the championship with a 72-hole score to par at -22 after she shot a final round 65, which is -7. On Sunday, Titicol was down 2 strokes with 2 holes left to Angel Yin. But she was able to eagle 17, then birdie 18, which is what she did to close round 3 on Saturday. Eagled 17, birdied 18. And Yin's birdie putt narrowly missed on the 18th hole to give the 21-year-old, from Thailand the one-shot come-from-behind victory. Titicol took home the $4 million prize, which is the largest in women's golf history. She also earned another $1 million in bonuses. They had some weird bonus system set up where there's certain holes that if you hit certain milestones or were closest to the pin or whatever the hole, they added these points up throughout the week, and she won that. Complicated, whatever it was. She took $5 million home over the weekend, so that's a pretty freaking good payday for someone who's 21 years old. But
heck yeah,
hell of a comeback performance for Titicol, one of the rising stars of the tour.
100%.
My second thing, actually I have 2 things. My second thing this week goes to UCLA women's basketball. I don't know if you saw them. They snapped South Carolina's 43-game winning streak with a dominant 77-62 victory at Pauley Pavilion at, UCLA. The Bruins led by as many as 23 points in the contest to give them their first win ever versus a number 1 ranked team. They had been 0-20 before that. UCLA moved to number 1 in the AP poll for the first time in program history. They are only the 26th women's basketball program to ever be ranked number 1 overall since they started ranking them.
That's crazy.
Pretty impressive stuff from the ladies of Westwood out there.
Yeah.
Anything else Mimosa Minute-wise?
Yeah. Take it back to golf. We saw a couple of really big names in golf retire this week. One that we knew that was coming, Lexi Thompson, played her final round. A little bit of controversy and some upsetness, I guess, some malcontent on her part because of how she went off for her final round. Her last hole that she played wasn't 18, it was 9 because she went off on the back 9 first. Mm-hmm. She went off on 10, so she was upset about that. Whatever. It was a great career for Lexi. I mean, it was cool getting to see her at Solheim Cup. Everyone was just going nuts because I think the majority of the people there knew this was going to be the last time that they would see her. Yep. The first and last time for me, which was cool. But then you also had other players like Allie Ewing and Marina Alex, who also called it a career.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Allie Ewing, she retired. She finished just behind Marina Alex this weekend at 11 under, scored a par through 72 holes, and Marina Alex was up there as well. I think she finished tied with Kupcho and Jin Young Ko, I believe, for this. But yeah, a couple big names. So just wanted to shout them out. It was fun to watch them. Like I said, you guys know I got really, really into the LPGA this year. Big part of it was because of this podcast and because of this segment. So it's been really, really fun watching them play over the last year. But, leading up to their retirement and when they made the announcement, I did a lot of research on them, read up on them. I mean, it was really, really, it was cool, Congrats to them. Good luck after retirement. I'm sure we'll see them in a couple one-offs in the next couple of years. But yeah, just wanted to shout them out.
Yeah.
Did you also see, Kamlo, that Korda and Charlie Hull were really, really upset with the pace of play?
Yes.
Going on.
Oh, did you hear Charlie Hull's take? She said that she said if it was up to her that they would either take a stroke penalty or in some instances lose their card. She said, but I guess maybe I'm brutal. Yeah, they were not
the British wit there.
Because
that tongue in cheek.
They caught her after she finished a round in the dark. It took her almost 6 hours to play a round because of slow play, and so some reporter just had the smart idea to stick a camera and a microphone in her face.
It's the exact right time. That's how you get the
Charlie, were you upset at all about the slow play? Yeah, I was. I can barely see you. What do you think, bozo?
Call people bozo a lot recently.
Yeah, yeah. Write that down, jabroni.
Thank you. Boy, anything else?
Yeah, if you look, we can go back to women's college basketball. If you look down that rankings list in the AP Top 25, it's a team that keeps sliding up. It's my West Virginia Mountaineers.
Slipping in.
They're sitting at number 12.
Sliding. And
they are really good. They play Press Virginia basketball. They get after you and they turn you over. They're fun to watch. JJ Quinterly is awesome.
Yes.
Nice. Okay, so keep an eye on some WVU.
On the Mountaineers. Remember last year they should have beat Iowa.
They had as good a shot as anyone to beat Iowa until Dawn Staley.
That's right. I do remember that. Now that you bring it up,
that was a tremendous
coach Mark Kellogg is really good.
Yeah, you're right. It was very Press Virginia and VCU havoc.
Yes,
all rolled in one. We're gonna throw 15 people out there. Who gives a crap if someone fouls out?
Call a foul.
Do it. You won't. Yeah.
And I think if Quinterly steps up her offense this year, this team is really dangerous. Like legitimately Final Four caliber.
Sure.
I like it. Anything else before we move on?
Move it on.
Final segment. That'll take us to our final segment of the week, which is, as always, our favorites. Brought to you each week by One Legacy Title and Escrow in Jacksonville, Florida. Follow them on Instagram and visit them at onelegacyflorida.com to see how they can help you with your next house closing. One Legacy Title and Escrow, because your legacy matters. This week, in honor of Rivalry Week, we went with our favorite college football rivalries, right? Boy already touched on one, Lehigh Lafayette. I'm glad you threw that in there because, as we said, if you didn't know, longest continuously played rivalry in all divisions, right? Pretty amazing for the Mountain Hawks. Is it Cougars? Is that what Lafayette is? Leopards. That's Jeffrey's favorite animal, by the way.
Why? He likes the spots.
Good one.
He works for the Pox department.
It's funny as hell.
So who want me to tape some nature show?
Who would like to start us off?
Oh my god, Stevie, can you go? I gotta fix something real quick. I had football, not college football, so number 2. Spoiler alert: it's getting changed now, but I had Patriots Jets.
Can't wait, man! I can't wait for.
All right, I'll take my time now.
Yeah, there you go. Go for it.
All right, good thing I have an honorable mention
or two.
Yeah.
Coming in at honorable mention, the backyard brawl.
Yeah.
West Virginia and Pitt. One of the I think more fun rivalries. Only an hour and a half apart from Pittsburgh to Morgantown. I never really got to experience it because when I went to West Virginia was the first year we moved to the Big 12, and that rivalry for some stupid ass reason went away. Couldn't play it in the non-conference. It was so stupid. So I never grew up really hating Pitt or I love West Virginia. I hate Pitt. I never really did. So that rivalry didn't mean as much to me. That's why it's sitting at the honorable mention. Number 5, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Paul Bunyan's axe.
Oh, the greatest trophy.
One of the best trophies, if not the greatest trophy in college football. Yeah, if you don't know this, Kamlo, it's literally just a giant axe. With
I could figure that part out, yeah.
Scores of each game and the date inscribed on it. And then the winning team goes to the opponent's goalposts and pretends to chop it down.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, one side of the axe is Wisconsin red, the other side is Minnesota gold.
Minnesota gold, yeah. Or they're maroon.
I thought it was the gold.
The gold,
nice.
Yeah. Number 4, the Holy War, Utah and BYU, because I think it's the best rivalry name. The Holy War. Yeah. That's got some juice to it. Those are two really underrated fan bases that clearly hate each other.
Yes.
Number 3, West Virginia and Virginia Tech. The Black Diamond Trophy.
Yeah,
yes,
cool
the Black
trophy.
Diamond Trophy. It's a
sweet. Do we got a picture of that?
Do we have a picture of that?
I could get one real quick.
Yeah, while you're still fixing your stuff, it is a cool trophy.
The Black Diamond Trophy is sweet. West Virginia, Virginia Tech. That's another rivalry that went away when West Virginia went to, or I guess when Virginia Tech went to the ACC.
Yeah.
And then West Virginia went to the Big 12. But yeah, it's a sweet trophy.
Yeah.
That one means more to me, maybe because Nick went to UVA, and some of my best friends went to Virginia Tech. But that rivalry means way more to me than West Virginia Pitt. I think those two, and I think that the two schools are basically the exact same. They have the same fan bases, which is why they hate each other so much.
Yeah.
Number 2, the Red River Shootout. Texas and Oklahoma always played at noon, always in Dallas at the State Fair and the Cotton Bowl. That one, I just think, like, going back to, like, our childhood, I think that one was, like, the biggest rivalry that I like, couldn't wait for. Like, the game day was always, every single year, game day is always there, right? And it led right up into the start of the game. They've had Toby Keith as a guest picker, RIP. But the Red River Shootout, Texas versus Oklahoma in Dallas, always a lot of fun. And then number 1, America's game, Army Navy, right?
Yeah.
Best. Yeah. The jerseys and the, like, everything about it. That game is awesome.
And yeah, that's a special game.
Yeah, that special is the right word. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Kamlo, are you ready? Because I do have a fun fact I'll throw out there for you that the boy might
throw it out there
as you're still preparing. Doing my research, I learned about a nickname of a rivalry that I didn't even know existed. Kansas State and Iowa State. Do you know they have a rivalry? They've played like every year for like over 100 years. Did you know that?
Did they?
They're going to play this weekend during rivalry week. Do you know what the nickname is? Oh, it's so good.
Oh, it's Farmland or something, right?
Farmageddon.
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 So good.
So good.
That's so good.
If I hadn't learned about it literally 2 days ago, that would have been up there in my top because I was like, oh my God, that is the best name ever.
That's
Farmageddon,
really, really good.
Iowa State, Kansas State, they will play again this weekend. Thought I'd throw it out there as Kamlo wrapped his stuff up.
Nice. All right, so here we go. Rivalries. Tell me if I did this right, I guess. So I'm going to go honorable mention. I am going to go same as you, Stevie. I went West Virginia Pitt because, you going there and me being foreign to college football for the most part, that's a pretty special one. I mean, it's honorable mention just simply because I can't listen to Sweet Caroline like a normal citizen anymore. So that's right up there. So I'm putting that honorable mention. It's fun. It is fun. And it helps that I have a guy that I work with and golf with who is a big Pitt fan. So Backyard Brawl, that is a fun one.
Just tell him to eat it.
Number 5, I went with Harvard Yale.
The
I went
game.
with Harvard Yale. Yes, the game. In the Ivy League, we call this the game. That's a pretty fun one. When I was doing my research and thinking about it, I watched that game a couple of times because someone we went to school with who was a year ahead of us, she ended up going to Yale. And when I saw her during one of the breaks, she was telling me, like one of their like school breaks, she was telling me about how electric that was and how much fun it was. I did stumble across some like super Ivy League pranks.
Oh, they're crazy for that game. Crazy history. So
in 1982, Harvard students released live greased pigs onto the onto the Yale bowl field. Like, greased watermelon, try to grab it.
There's glass all over the bottom of this pool.
In 2004, Yale had a pretty big one where they dressed, some of the students dressed up as Harvard Pep Squad members and handed out signs to Harvard fans, and the fans all read "We suck."
Yes, yes, I remember. Phenomenal.
So that's a pretty fun one. And then you just get like students that are just dressing up in tweed jackets and spectacles and stuff. Really embracing the whole Ivy League of it. They're better than us.
What's wrong with the tweed jacket?
I'm not going to get into it, Nick.
I don't own one. Just asking for a friend.
Got my master's from UVA, the public Ivy. Get me out of here.
I actually don't own a tweed jacket, so you can suck it, nerds.
Well, so it's a tweed jacket, so let's just keep going alienating our guests until we have no more. So remember in How I Met Your Mother when Barney rips on Ted for wearing a tweed jacket? Yes. Says, you know why they have elbow pads, Ted? He's like, because they're always going, geez, why can't I get laid? So anyway, so number 4, we're going to move it right along. I'm going to keep with the theme. I kept with the theme of like schools that I have like a personal vested interest in through friends. I went with Alabama Auburn. One of my friends, she went to Auburn and was actually an equipment manager the year Cam Newton and Auburn won the national title.
Newtown?
Cam Newtown. She got a ring for us. So that was pretty cool. So Alabama Auburn, that's a pretty special one. Number 3, I went Notre Dame USC for the jeweled shillelagh.
That's stupid shillelagh.
It's awesome. I love it. Rich Irish history there.
For the Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame.
The French sounding name with the offensive stereotype as their mascot.
We don't find it offensive. They get to play in Ireland. I mean,
that makes it better.
That's not acceptance.
This is how we'll skew our PR.
2 went Texas, Oklahoma. Red River Shootout. I went with Texas, Oklahoma for number 2. That one I skewed far away from. I don't know anyone that went to either of those schools, but how badass is that name?
It's great. By the way, they can't say it. It's PC now to say the Red River Rivalry, I believe.
I don't care.
It will always be the Red River Shootout.
Yeah, Red River Shootout. Gunslingers, baby. And then number 1, back to personal vested interest in games that I've actually been to. I went Navy versus Army. The history of my dad going there, getting to go to games, getting to go to the tailgates, learning the history about them competing for the star on their logo for the next year. The jerseys are phenomenal. Talked to Dad this weekend. He doesn't have any hookups.
Damn it. But how cool are the Jolly Rogers?
Yes, the Jolly Rogers are awesome. They do have some sweet shirts for like only $40.
Yes, they do. Yeah. That's what I was asking. Can we get like a shirt or sweatshirt?
Yeah. So I think sometime in the next couple of weeks, you guys will probably see me rocking a Jolly Roger shirt.
Absolutely. Yeah. What the Army's the 101st Band of Brothers Airborne.
Yeah. So yeah, Dad, who he likes watching Navy, he likes watching Army Navy games, but like he could give a rat's ass about a jersey reveal. Even he was jazzed about it. He was like the Jolly Rogers, and like it got like really like old school like tavern sounding, where he said one of the oldest squadrons around. Got like really dark. Like I'm pretty sure the light dimmed. But so Army Navy. I mean, it's just so good. I can smell the chili on the stove. I can hear Dad just inviting the mailman in from dropping packages off. Like he gets after it. It's been in my roots. It's just something. It's always been on in my house.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so my list, I gave favoritism to the rivalries that take place during rivalry week, and that still happened. So, like Backyard Brawl, I was like, no, that's cut because Red River Rivalry doesn't. Yeah, right. Alabama, Tennessee, that can't make it, right? So
third Saturday in October.
Yep, you got to be during rivalry week because to me that's what makes it special. Fair. Is the fact that you look at the slate and you're like, rivalries. Right?
It sucks because the Big 12, I know Iowa State and Kansas State have Farmageddon, but the Big 12 with their 9, the way they schedule it.
I'm just saying this, but that's why I gave favoritism to the ones that survived that, right? So my honorable mention is Michigan, Ohio State, the big game. Always entertaining. There's always something that might happen in that game. Always played at noon too, which I think is cool. And then that time never changes for that game. So that was my honorable mention. to satisfy the Guatemalan masses.
I was about to say, someone had to put it
out there. Number 5, I went with USC's 2 rivalries that they close the season with. So they go USC, UCLA, where they wear the awesome red and blue jerseys together. It's like the coolest thing to look at, right? They do that, and then the next week they go USC Notre Dame, right? So they close with those 2 rivalries. I don't know if there's another school in the country that can do that, right? And so to me, that's really cool. So my number 5 spot is the combination of USC versus UCLA and Notre Dame, especially when you think about the history in those rivalries and the players that have played in those games. There's some dudes that have played in all those games. That's pretty cool to me. Number 4, the Egg Bowl, Mississippi State and Ole Miss. You talk about shit hitting the fan. Every time they play, there is something that happens that you just go, what in God's green earth did I just watch? Like, you could have the 2 worst teams in the SEC that year, and it'd be the most entertaining game you'll ever watch. The craziness happens in the Egg Bowl every year, regardless of record, regardless of who's on the team.
Can we check back in next week to see what happens?
See what happens. I think the spread's like 20.
See if it turns into an egg on your face bowl.
Yeah. Well, that is very much the haves versus the have-nots in Mississippi.
Yeah.
Like, Ole Miss is very hoity-toity, elitist, as one would say, and Mississippi State is more, I guess,
lucky to have some eggs.
Yeah. Why is it called the Egg Bowl, by the way?
They crack some eggs of knowledge on each other. I actually don't know.
No shot. That's why.
That's not what it is, Jabroni.
I'll research.
I feel like I tried to look it up and it wasn't really. I couldn't really find a good answer, but I don't know. Something weird always happens in the game. And for whatever reason, that game this year's played on Black Friday. It's normally always like the only college game on Thanksgiving Day. Which
you're right.
Made it that much more special for me. But for whatever reason, it's played the next day this year. I don't know why. Number 3 is Wisconsin, Minnesota. Like the boy said, the best trophy in the land. It is phenomenal. Paul Bunyan's axe. It would be higher if Minnesota had been competitive for most of our lives. That Wisconsin had dominated that for the better part of 20 years or so. But it's been brought back coaching-wise. Because PJ Fleck is a much better coach than whoever the hell Wisconsin's been running out there the last several years. So they've kind of, closed that gap and flipped the tables to make it a more competitive game. But that's always such a cool game, Wisconsin-Minnesota.
Sure.
Number 2, I went with Army-Navy, right? I flip-flopped on this. It's hard for me to figure out where to put that. Army-Navy, it should be telling the fact that we all have it up there, either 1 or 2. Because it means more, right? You're right. It's on at our house every year, the whole game.
Yeah.
That may be the only game I sit through the freaking commercials. Because as some of you know, I am a flipper with the clicker.
His remote doesn't have buttons anymore.
Just rapid fire, just flipping through it because I despise commercials. I will not do it. But the Army-Navy game is about the only thing that I would sit through, and I would let the commercials run. Because I don't want to miss the other content that they have going with that game. They talk about all the players and their assignments and where they're going and all the stuff that goes with it is just phenomenal. America's game, I believe, is what it is dubbed. But Army-Navy is number 2. Number 1 is Auburn, Alabama for me.
There you go.
And the reason for it is that sticks out to me as like the first college rivalry I ever heard of. When you knew what a rivalry was. And the Iron Bowl. And again, I'm going to eat crow on this one. That game's always competitive regardless of the records. It's not shocking to see like a 3-win Auburn team take a 10-win Alabama team to the wire. It doesn't happen in other rivalries. As someone who's a part of a rivalry that speaks to that, UVA
We've
Tech
had some crazy moments in those games too.
Exactly. But that's the point. There's no reason that shouldn't be competitive. Auburn, Alabama have had plenty of games where they should not have been competitive at all, right? Should have been blowouts, but go down to the wire and are crazy. And that speaks to speaks volumes of what that rivalry means to the players, the coaches, the teams, the fan bases, the schools, right? That doesn't happen, just out of nowhere that, this is our rival, right? And that's deep-seated. That's like culture, right? And to me, that makes it the perfect rivalry is the fact that regardless of who's on the field, regardless of record, it is always a spectacle, right? The kick six, I'm memory burned. Ooh, memory burned, Jerry. Memory burned where I was sitting when I watched that. Boy, I think you actually might have been with us for whatever reason in Charlottesville for a game. But I remember exactly where I was sitting watching it going, that is insane. I cannot believe that just happened. And that was another one of those games. Alabama was a way better team than Auburn going into that. It just, to me, that epitomizes college football, that rivalry, and that epitomizes what a rivalry is. Mm-hmm. And it should always be competitive. It should always be unpredictable. It should always have some bigger feeling to it. And that's what Auburn, Alabama has, the Iron Bowl.
So, do you want your golden egg origin?
Yeah.
So, that trophy, the golden egg trophy, was introduced back in 1927, back when footballs were rounded. We didn't the modern like football.
So they use it as like a slang for the football, it's the egg.
So the football back then looked more like a rugby ball.
Yes.
And it wasn't until like 1929 that we started seeing like the pointed ends. Well, so this golden football was presented to teams to help like reduce the risk of post-game altercations. And people started joking that it doesn't look like a football, it looks like an egg. Well, so fast forward 50 years to 1978, and they just finally decided to lean into it and dubbed it the Egg Bowl. So it started out as a joke. It started out as a deterrent, and then a joke, and then legitimized.
I love it. Is this game in Mississippi State this year? Do you know? Because
I do not know.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
They play on Friday, right?
Friday, unfortunately. But, yeah.
No, that's in Oxford.
Oxford. The Fighting John Grishams.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The Fighting John Grishams.
That's He went to Ole Miss. What do you want from me, boy? Went to Ole Miss. He paid for UVA's baseball stadium.
Yeah.
The Fighting John Grishams.
That wasn't the name I was expecting to come out of your mouth.
No.
Take that over. All right. Anything else before we wrap this debacle up for this week?
Tie it up and put a bow on it,
All
Nick.
right.
Get the hell out of here.
I love it. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us this week. As always, for the man, Stephen Kamlo, and the boy, Stephen Veschi, I am the coach, Nick Veschi. Don't forget to follow us on all of our socials. That's on Instagram, X, and Facebook at WCME_sports. Our episodes drop every Wednesday at noon on Spotify and on YouTube, and you can visit us on our website at any time at WCMEsports.com. Remember, be decent to each other. Have a good one. We'll see you next time. Take care, Guatemala, and fuck Tech.
Happy Thanksgiving. Yep, sure. That too, buddy.
Nice slip in.
Yes. Good night, everybody.